Hey, good evening. Welcome to A Foreigner in the Philippines. I love a good success story, and success stories are always based on a ton of failures. Just a couple. Being a musician, I would always think in terms of songs that were failures in the beginning. The Beatles, for instance, were turned down by every recording company before they finally were accepted and had a hit. And so there was a point at which they were being failures. What's another one? The Beatles. My Way apparently was turned down by a lot of people before it was finally made into a hit. By the Time I Get to Phoenix, now there's a song that has been recorded by every major artist at one time or another. Maybe not the groups or the bands, but solo artists. So many of them have recorded By the Time I Get to Phoenix. It was never what they call a hit. It was never a top 40 hit. You think about Colonel Saunders. Colonel Saunders apparently was turned down. He had I believe it was 8,000 refusals before he finally found someone who was prepared to do a deal with him. And at the time, he was suffering very badly on a minuscule social security check. And one of my favourites was Sylvester Stallone. Sylvester Stallone locked himself away. He was having some success. I think he'd made a couple of porn films and B movies, and not really much success. And the story goes that he locked himself away in an apartment. He blanked out all of the windows with black plastic, so he didn't know. He took all the clocks and put them in a drawer and never looked at them. He didn't have any phones in there. He had enough basic food to be able to last. He slept when he was tired and awoke when he'd finished and he'd had enough sleep. And at the end of it, I believe about 3 weeks, even if it's not true, it's a great story. At the end of 3 weeks of living like this, he had written Rocky. Now, he wrote Rocky on the basis of watching a real life Rocky, where some loser of a guy who apparently had no chance was very, very successful in facing someone who everybody was saying was the favorite. So all of these success stories are all based on terrific failures. If you think about Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Canfield and his partner, and what they did was they just they wrote some of the stories in there themselves, all short stories, and they accepted stories, feel-good stories, from anyone who had seen the story happen in real life, and they put them together, and it was a feel-good. I mean, you know that with Beth and I, we always say that we have a feel-good channel, and that the idea is that you're supposed to look at our channel, and when you finally move on next, you should actually be feeling better. So that's the idea. Now, what happens then? Is it so easy that you just have to face a few failures? Well, it's not so easy to face your failures, and one of the things that I always thought, that if you could be told what is it about the failure and failing that is such a killer, it is probably mainly the uncertainty. You simply don't know whether you're going to eventually succeed. Now, if you could take out of the mix that sense of unknowingness, a sense of of just not knowing whether you're ever going to make it. And if you could replace that with total faith in your success, your eventual success. Supposing God called you up, hello, on the phone, this is God, and just want you to know that you will succeed if you choose the thing that you love doing. I guarantee that you will succeed, but there is a condition. You will have to make 4,000 phone calls. Colonel Saunders apparently made 8,000. He walked in 8,000. So here you are, you've been told by God that you're going to succeed, but you just got to make 4,000 phone calls. What would you do? You'd get straight on the phone and start, and you'd say 1, 2, and you would continue if you knew that you were going to win. If you knew that you were eventually going to win, you would be able to keep your attention and your focus and your faith in everything and in yourself just by continuing, just by persevering. I remember when I was struggling to just get a story written. Back then it wasn't. I've written 3 books which are all collections of short stories which are based in the truth of the moment made into a story. So I would see something happen and I'm actually seeing it happening, and I would use that as the inspiration for a short story. Back then I just used to sit down and I would think, who on earth would be interested in a story that I'd written? And so I actually came across online, I came across a channel, a video where the man had found out the addresses of this is the email addresses of some famous, very successful people. I thought, they must know something that I don't. And so I wrote 3 or 4 letters, 3 or 4 emails, and I said, my question was always the same. In view of your success that you are enjoying now, is there something that you wish back then when you were not successful that someone had told you, that you've now learned? You've learned, and have you ever said, my God, if someone had just told me that, I would have been able to be successful much quicker. A couple of people wrote back to me. One, a writer who was a published writer, and she had it was like a bitter story about running foul of a bad agent. She said, yes, I wish someone had said to me, be much more careful when you're choosing an agent, because I've been going through what seems like a bad marriage. So let's discount that one. But that was a real response that I had. And then somebody who had written successful, this is when the X-Files were very, very popular. And I've forgotten the name of the guy, Scottish name now is all I remember, like, I don't know, MacLeod or Campbell or something like that. But he was a successful writer. And I wrote to him and said, is there anything that, if you just wish now, my God, why didn't somebody tell me that? And he wrote back to me, said, easy, it's an easy answer, easy question, easy answer. Perseverance. Just persevere. He said, nobody gave me anything. Nobody gave me any success. Nobody did it for me. And he said, I have friends who, if anything, might even be considered better writers than I am. But they gave up. So, just keep on keeping on. Sylvester Stallone said the same thing. He was asked, what is the secret You're incredibly successful. What's the secret? He said, what can I tell you? There is no secret. You try and try and try and try again. And he said, and after that, you try and try and try again. You just keep trying. What was it? Winston Churchill was once hired, he was booked to do the keynote speech for a big, one of the most prestigious, something like Yale or something like that, Oxford, Cambridge, come and do the speech. And they were very, very excited. And when it came to his turn, they introduced him, the great Winston Churchill, and he got up and he said, never, 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 never give up. And he sat down again. It was only afterwards that they thought about that and thought, this is what it takes. So when people tell you that you'll never make it, and plenty told me that I would never have any kind of success, I never gave up. You just don't give up. It's not, and I'm not telling you anything that you haven't heard before, but my experience has been that when enough people are telling, and this is another thing that you might consider, when a lot of people are telling you, you'll never make it, you'll give up, you'll never make it. I remember a kid at school told me, you can't draw. Wasn't true, I can draw. But that negative thing stayed with me for a while. It doesn't anymore. Now, when I hear a lot of people telling me, you're not going to make this, this is not going to happen, you're going to be a failure, I think, well, I must be doing something right. So, if you get a little bit of encouragement, don't think about that old saying that my mother used to say to me, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. They will, but only if you listen to them. Thanks for listening to this and to me, and I hope it helps. Don't give up. There is no secret. You just don't give up. Bye for now.